Ohio gozaimasu. Breathe and crush and sniff. Now, I thought maybe you guys were getting a little bored with seeing my mint. But honestly, if you can grow something on your windowsill, if you don't have a back garden or a backyard or, container or a balcony or something like that, even front porch. But I do these on my windowsill. And I'm so proud because honestly, I remember when I started working for Country Living Gardener, and a friend of mine said to me, "Why are you working for a garden magazine? You can't grow anything." And I said, "But that makes me a good journalist about it because I don't take for granted questions that need to be asked, like, do you water it? I mean, how much do you water it? Things like that." Whereas with Shakespeare, I will admit that I take leaps of faith that people know what I'm talking about, and they don't always. They don't know, obviously, when you know a lot about something, you assume that everybody else knows a lot about something as well, and it's not always the case. It's often not the case. So anyway, so you crush and sniff. We breathe to, activate all the internal organs. It just, honestly, if you take a deep breath, you will see how much better you feel instantly. And one of the reasons we do herbal healing for Hannah, who's not here today, but we have a special guest. So I'm very excited about that. But one of the reasons we do this is to empower you. Shakespeare talks a lot about sovereignty, and even though he's talking about monarchs, we all are, stars of our own movie. We all are the kings and queens of our world. And so you want to have your sovereignty. And so there's something to prune. If you take but we also want fast fixes and pills to fix everything. We've gotten used to that. Herbs are not a fast fix generally, although crushing and sniffing, you get the immediate benefits because the oils and the herbs are released as you crush, and you take that in, and it has an effect on your physiognomy. How about that for another $100 word? We discussed $100 words last week in the Apple show with Nikki B doing the eco-stem speech, Duke of Burgundy from Henry V, and deracinate. So that was the line of the week. Don't let the coulter rust that should deracinate such savagery. So yeah, I should be repeating. 2 weeks in a row, I've repeated the last week's line of the week, and this week's line of the week is going to be about light. So that's a little clue to our special guest. But before I get to that, I just want to say, if you don't have a plant around to crush and sniff and breathe in, I got, when I was in Vermont at a Shakespeare retreat, a pine pillow from the pine forest, right? And oh my God, you can get them at the Vermont store online. It just immediately enlivens and invigorates the nose, the body, the breath that is the breath of life, right? So I'm doing that right thing that Malcolm Gladwell does. Well, that's a good person to imitate. Anyway, so get yourself a pine pillow, a sachet for your closet, or anything like that, because it smells amazing. And I have been not getting any sleep, which I think is probably evident because I have a deadline on a paper, and I'm writing about the other playwrights and writers of the Elizabethan age who also used named plants, and it's sort of interesting to look at the survey and see who used them and who didn't, and how that breaks down. But anyway, so I've been staying up all night, which is bad. And so I just want to talk a little bit, because Hannah didn't want to talk about this, about parasites. Now, I'm sure we have parasites as people in our lives, but you can get, one of the aspects you can get parasites is not enough sleep. And so there are pills, there are medications that you can take to kill parasites and things like that. And I had to take one, I don't know, a couple years ago, but it didn't really do the job. And so, but if you're constantly incorporating herbs into your life, I'm not prescribing, I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one on TV. Have I ever played one? I'm trying to think. No, I don't think so. Anyway, so Walnut, some ones in Shakespeare that take care of that address the parasite issue. Let's just put it that way, and are black walnut. Shakespeare doesn't specify what kind of walnuts he's talking about, but black walnuts are good for parasites. And garlic. Garlic is funny because this being the month of Halloween and everything, you're told to take garlic if you want to keep vampires away. Now, maybe vampires just didn't like bad breath, but it does cleanse the blood. As garlic, we've done the garlic and parsley show. We've talked a lot about garlic and all the benefits it has being in your bloodstream. So because vampires suck blood, they don't want garlic. Maybe they don't want bad breath. Who knows? Who cares? But anyway, so garlic is another one, a great one in Shakespeare, and he talks about, that actors shouldn't eat onions or garlic before they perform. So garlic is one, and wormwood, which Hannah and I just did a show on. Now, she doesn't, because she is a medical herbalist, that you go through a whole long series with her if you have her as do a consultation with her. So she's not going to just prescribe something randomly. But I am not a doctor, so I'm just saying these are some of the herbs that are used for these issues. But you want to follow the directions on the herb. Just kidding. About how to take it for your particular system. But you can also experiment with things and put garlic in your food. And anyway, sweet wormwood would be tough, and I'm not recommending you glug any absinthe, which is made from wormwood, although Drew, in our cocktail of the month, 2 months ago, I think, had absinthe or wormwood in his cocktail of the month, and we have that coming up next week. Anyway, so let me just get to a couple of other things. So that's a little bit of herbal therapy, because our next guest is not necessarily talking about herbs, but it is the month of the Pumpion, and Shakespeare says watery Pumpion or pumpkin. This is very hard and very, very not watery. He also talks about gourds and I think measure for measure. So these little cute ones are so great to put on the tables and all of that kind of stuff. And speaking of tables, we will bring on our guest now, who is a ray of light. And you'll see why I said that in a minute. But she I've brought her on, employed her for talks that I've given, and she's usually sung for us, she has a beautiful singing voice, and we did a talk on Penelope Rich, which is one of the 16th century people that I work on, and she was known as a great singer, and her silver voice and all of that kind of stuff. So I see her on. Yes. Yay. We're going to so I've said join. We had this a little bit last week. There we go. There is the ray of light, and you have the rays of light behind you. That's excellent. Of course. So I just want to say, as I mentioned earlier, we had the Shakespeare retreat in Vermont, and Hillary brought her amazing fairy lights, which we'll let you talk about that in a minute. And I have a Winter's Tale one, and I realized that I didn't want to wait to tell you guys about them because I never give people enough time to order things if they want them. And they're great for Halloween, so that would probably be the Scottish play, which I don't say. Do you have one? Yikes. Tip it a little bit towards there we go. You can see the Weird Sisters, the Three Witches. Yes. So those are great things to put on your porch or your table. Nikki B will put up a picture afterwards. We used them on the tables for the retreat and turned off the lights, and they glow and they look beautiful. Now, Winter's Tale I had done a paper on, and it'll be great for, and the famous line, exit pursued by a bear. And she put little vines for me and a leaf. So it's like, I have to read that. Here's flowers for you, hot lavender, mince, savory marjoram. So Winter's Tale is a play that has the second most plants mentioned. It has a huge amount of plants. And I should use that as a quick question of which one has the most. Do you want to guess, Hillary, about which one has the most mention some plants?
Midsummer?
Yes, absolutely. Anyway, so this is what it comes in, and fabulous labels, I have to say. Ray of Light. Where did Ray of Light come from? Oh, yes, that's much better. Just putting it on the bubble wrap. But it comes safely packed.
My daughter's name is Raina. We call her Ray, but we spell it R-E-Y, so a little take on it. And so I took the name off of her, and that's where it all began, is we were just trying to make some magic during this quarantine, and these came about. Friends saw them and were like, I want more, and more ideas came, and it's been just a great way to stay creative, add magic into a crazy world, and yeah, I'm having fun.
And I love the fact that it came out of the quarantine, because, you know, so many people were complaining about having to stay in, but sometimes being quiet allows the rays of light into your inspirational space. And, you know, wonderful things come out of that. I personally need a lot of quiet for my creativity, if you're going to call it that. Do you? Yeah. Although with a tiny toddler, how much quiet do you get?
Not a lot, but I think although I missed theater, the step away from theater gave me a quiet to sort of evaluate other aspects of my life. I was on this, what I call hamster wheel of auditions, do shows, and it let me just stop and say, what other areas do I want to look into, be creative and look at myself? And so it gave that sort of quiet, and that's where these other expressions can come from, which I think are important.
They're absolutely important. And I think, you know, we think sometimes that we have this limited amount of how we can be creative and what we can do and what our skills are. If you get quiet a little bit and breathe, and breathe in some herbs that stimulate the brain, you're going to get rays of light for your own inspiration and creativity that then has room to move around into other areas and kind of bounce around in that. So I wanted to choose. But one thing I forgot to mention is I was trying to be autumnal today, and there's this fashion coming in they're calling Tudor core, because there was norm core and then there was cottage core, and cottage core I think really comes from Tudor core, but there's so much kind of, I think, Elizabethan style fashion on trend right now. So it's very easy for me to, but anyway, I just love these sleeves.
That's great.
But one of the things that I teach in this class I teach at Columbia every year, or used to before the pandemic, is that women start to come into when you see women coming into power or prominence politically or just on the worldscape, sleeves get bigger. Sleeves get bigger so they can move around. It's fascinating. 1890s it happened, 80s it happened. So anyway, so little hat tip to Tudor core. And we did a post for the Mad Hatter Day and hat tips all around there. So for the line of the week, I wanted to choose something with light. And there's so many great light lines, and we used on our story More Light, which is from the Feast of Capulet is having when Romeo and Juliet meet, which is perfect because, as I said, these are so great for holiday decor, if you will. But what's that one?
There's Romeo and Juliet are on there. This is like a bunch of different plays.
Now, how do you choose what colors? Just whatever comes to you as far as...
Yeah, I sort of, I thought about, the gold worked so well for like Midsummer and Magic, although I did a green Midsummer that I really liked too.
Oh yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, I get the images and then I just start to play and see. Red was apparent for Macbeth, the Scottish play. But yeah, I see what happens and I'm learning as I go. I'll be like, all right, these like green works great, purple works beautifully. Like I start to learn.
And blue, I love my blue one.
Blues, yeah.
The gold is actually really great for Romeo and Juliet because they end up as statues of gold. And I moderated this panel a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about alchemy in Shakespeare, and there's an alchemical progression in Romeo and Juliet that goes from lead to silver to gold. So this is the other funny thing about creativity, is that often you have impulses to do something that are right, but you don't know why, and you don't find out until later, how it all connects in, which is, I think, such a fascinating aspect of the whole process. Anyway, so I loved another one from Romeo and Juliet, actually, earth-treading stars, earth-treading stars that make dark heaven light. Because I thought, these make dark heaven light. And he's talking about people, of course, but it works for lights as well. and then I thought, well, mine is Winter's Tale, so maybe I should have one from Winter's Tale. And of course there is one, because there's so often when you're looking for a quote, you can go to Shakespeare and find what you're looking for. People did that all throughout the pandemic for the political situations we were dealing with and the health situations that we were dealing with. We did, in part of this retreat, we talked about, we did a thing on COVID. Do you remember what your line was for the COVID one?
It was so pertinent too. It was so perfect. Okay. Toddler brain.
Right. Mine was masks for faces and for noses. No, gloves as sweet as damask roses, masks for faces and for noses. Which of course people kept saying, cover your nose too, So interesting.
It was like, and at the last, their patients still endure to drive infection from this something. It was just so perfect. It was like driving infection out of this year is essentially what I would say. Yeah.
So it's fascinating. Anyway, in the Winter's Tale, it says, "Buy this good light." Oh, and you could use that as a pun as well. Buy this good light. Now, I don't usually push products and stuff, but one of the things that we do the herbal healing for is to make people aware when they see plants or eat food or any of that stuff of a layered experience of your environment. That it's not just food on a plate or a flower growing in a garden. It's connected to a character. It's connected to a play. It's connected to a plot. And that's one of the things that I love about these, is because they have this layered thing. I've got the famous line of exit pursued by a bear and light and decor and all of these things. So Shakespeare often, and I bring this up a lot, says it's all one. All of these things are contained in this little moment, right? And so where would one get these if one wanted to buy this good light?
I have listings of my Etsy store. So that's Etsy shop Rey of Light Art. So just look up Rey of Light Art, but you can go to on Instagram on my Rey of Light Creations, where you can get to the link in my bio. You can also just message me. I mean, I'm making tons of custom ones. I've got like a little dragon one I'm making for a little kid. I've got a fox one, a pumpkin fox ones I'm making for people. I mean, people just come to me and say, can you do this? And I find a way. So
you can customize them for people.
Yeah, if you want a Shakespeare play I haven't done or anything. I mean, I have ideas to do some Jane Austen, some other literary ones, and because I love books. So I welcome suggestions. I'm looking for inspiration. I also have a whole chakra series coming, where you can get your the chakra symbol and put it on your meditation table and light it with the color if you're looking to work on that. And so I've got a lot of fun ideas coming.
Okay, so I obviously tend to gravitate to Shakespeare, but I do have a massage therapist for whom that would be the perfect gift for their room, for the massage thing. So there's all kinds of ways to bring rays of light into your world. This is the line of the week I'm going to go with, even though Buy This Good Light is perfect, and that's an easy one. You could memorize that right this second. Earth-treading stars that make dark heaven light. So find Hillary on Rey of Light on Instagram, on Etsy. How do they message you on Instagram?
On Instagram or through Etsy or through Facebook. It's also, I have my Facebook page. Any of those places you can find me. Or at,
So as long as they're not going down, as we've had happen twice this week, it's very easy to get in touch and stay in touch. So thank you so much for coming on and lighting up our show today.
My pleasure.
Hilary's a fantastic actress, comedy and tragedy, and fantastic singer and great mother and creator. So, you know, it's all one. Thank you. See you next week, and I'll be right back with the cards.